Welcome everyone to another Welcome everyone to another easy webinar. My name is Standwa and I'm your host today, and I'm joined by Rupert Finnemore. He's our head of EasyProperties. If Finnemore can just say hi to the people, man.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome, well, especially from a cold and wet and, well, wonderfully wet Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Stans, I'm glad you made it back. I saw the message popped up saying 10 seconds to go, and I suddenly saw you run from your chair. So welcome back to you as well.
Thanks, man. I had to grab my my book to make some notes in, and so I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sweet, Rupert. So what this webinar is all about pretty much is Greenpark Lifestyle Estate. That's the new development by Baldwin in Boksburg. And we invited you here as the audience to ask some questions about Greenpark and chat to you and sort of share with you how investment in it is going and what we like about it and that sort of thing. And so I'd just like to jump straight into it, Rupert, if you do not mind.
Yeah, let's go.
I just want to know first things first, just in general on the platform, how much has been invested so far on the platform?
Yeah, Stans, I think it's actually gone really well. I mean, obviously we launched about, I don't know, 3 months ago, although it's always difficult to tell time in this period of COVID. 3 months feels like 10 years. So we've either been going for 3 months or 10 years. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's actually been going really well. I think we've been really delighted by the take-up from the community and the investments in the various properties. We've had around about 10,000 people make investments into residential property, which is really quite extraordinary. We've had investments into about, well, it's around 30 individual residential units, obviously comprising the 4 kind of IPOs that have been completed. We've raised over 30 million rand so far. With the Blide, obviously, so far on, not the Blide, sorry, on Greenpark, we've raised just a little over 5 million already. And so if we get this one away, which we need to as a kind of investor community, we will have raised close on, well, over 50 million rand and invested in over 55 residential units. And I suppose that's what EasyProperties is all about, is making available these really good residential investments. It is understanding what the various pain points have been and it still exists to be in the kind of traditional residential space, and helping our investors kind of overcome those particular friction points and pain points, and yeah, as I say, making accessible these residential property investments. So on the whole, I think we're all really delighted.
Ah, nice. And so I think Greenpark is the biggest raise for EasyProperties. Am I correct?
Yeah, by some margin.
So I mean, I'm going to assume this is your favorite property. But besides Greenpark, what is your favorite one that's listed on the platform and why?
Stans, that's a very difficult question. It's a little bit like, I suppose, asking which is your favorite child. You know, the fact that we've been so involved in kind of putting all of these investments together, all the work that's gone behind the scenes, you know, we've got like a real intimate knowledge about all of these properties. Each one has got its own particular strengths. And as I'm saying that, I'm kind of considering my own kids, but yeah, each one of them has got their own strengths and things like that. And so I'll tell you aspects of each that I really enjoy. I mean, Greenpark is obviously a fantastic one, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Green Reef Village, I think I really enjoyed. It was our most oversubscribed one, so a really popular one. I liked it in that it was a more affordable and spoke to that market. The fact that it had great big kind of green lungs and things like that in the development was I think quite a rarity in that level of property. So I really love that one. I love black brick because I suppose it's a really fantastic product. It offers a whole lot of that like really cool, elite, trendy living in the heart of Sandton, which I suppose reminds me of how I wished I was like in my late 20s.
Yeah.
That's a really beautiful one, as we know. I mean, we've had a few events there, which is cool. The Rockefeller, obviously, is also fantastic. I mean, it's in the Cape Town foreshore, so really upcoming area in Cape Town. I think what I particularly liked about that is a lot of the feedback from our investors was that it was the first opportunity they've had, particularly to invest in the Cape Town market. I know a couple of guys that said it was a dream of theirs to be able to invest in kind of waterfront Cape Town property. And we made that accessible to a whole lot of people. So that was really cool. And obviously the Blyde is just an extraordinary property, you know, again, in a really great area, making a really unique property. I mean, as you know, you were very clever when we had our launch out there. You rented one of the units through Airbnb, but I mean, it's an extraordinary property, and so I really enjoy all of them. I think what's awesome is that each offers something a little bit different depending on what your kind of investment criteria and goals are. I mean, some obviously offer a better yield, some offer better capital growth, some offer really good mix of the two together, which is obviously, kind of evidenced by the IRR. It's a way you can kind of compare both yield and capital growth. So that sounds like a really long politician's answer for not picking a particular property, but all of them have got really something wonderful to offer.
Yeah, that's very true. So I actually have a favorite, as does my mother, by the way. My mom's favorite child is me, of course. But
obviously.
Obviously, but I would say my favorite one was black brick because it's so much more of a lifestyle kind of vibe to it. And like you said, I'm in the late 20s, so that's very cool. And also Greenpark as well, because it's eco-friendly, and I really dig that whole that it's more about it's more than just a property and an investment. It's about the
absolutely
bigger picture.
Yeah.
So we've talked about what EasyProperties. You've briefly mentioned what EasyProperties is about. And the thing about investing in property outside of a prop tech company like this is that, being able to buy and sell, pretty much liquidity is an issue. And we address that liquidity issue with the platform via auctions. I just want to know, is it a good thing to digitize auctions? And how often can we expect auctions to take place?
That's a really important question. It is a real friction point for people to invest in residential property. Is the length of the term, to be able to generate a good return. I suppose at this juncture, it's really important to, again, re-emphasize the fact that property is a medium to long-term investment. This is not buying and trading shares as the Sasol price is going up and down. People are jumping in and jumping out and trying to make little margins here and there. Property is not that. And I think we really need to be clear about that. But having said that, people invest in property. They understand that it's a medium to long-term investment to generate the kind of returns they are looking for. But things happen in life. One just has to look at COVID. I mean, how many of us have had to tap into meager savings or scratching around, or for some of our guys, obviously the worst has happened and they've lost their jobs, or all of that kind of stuff. So things happen in life. And in the traditional residential market, exiting an investment is time consuming and actually very expensive. If you go and buy your own residential unit, again, there's a lot of risk attached to that. But if you want to exit that investment, it can take up to 3 months at least, generally quite longer with the kind of sales market at the moment, but it's also enormously expensive. And so there was a word that you used earlier when you said we've addressed that point. I think the better word is actually addressing. It's a friction point that we've identified, We've built a lot of those auction components already, but there's still a little bit of dev required to kind of put it all together. So it has been one of the questions that one or two of our investors have asked me on social media. And unfortunately, I can't give a definitive answer right now. Like, it's coming out on the 1st of December or the 15th of December. The fact of the matter is that most of those components have been built. Our UX wizard in Almira and Anita have designed all the screens, so it's a really easy to use kind of platform when it comes out. But there's one or two dev issues still kind of tying the two together. Yeah. So the short answer is we are addressing it, and addressing it in a big hurry. We understand that it's, again, one of the major friction points that people have, and we'll be launching that capability, just as soon as we can. The second part of your question was obviously the frequency with which we're going to be doing that. And to start with, we're going to be doing that quarterly. I think the idea around that was that we don't necessarily want to encourage trading in and out of these property investments, because it's kind of sets the wrong tone for what we're trying to encourage, which is medium to long-term investment. So quarterly to start with, but again, that will be demand driven. A lot of guys would have received our survey that went out last week. And I think that's one of the really cool things about being in the Easy group, is that we're a learning organization, and we try to get feedback from our investors and our community regularly, and actually attend to that feedback. So if it turns out that guys want to have auctions more often, then we can do that for sure. And the third part of your question was digitizing it, whether it's a good or a bad thing. Well, I think it's an amazing thing to be able to offer that in our kind of tech stack that is being built up for EasyProperties. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect of the business.
For sure. And also, I think it gives people I know we're still working on it, but I think it gives people the opportunity to invest even after the IPO is closed. So if, for instance, you're listening to this chat and you want to invest in Black Brick or Greenpark, and it's passed you by already, then auctions are the opportunity for you to get in. So it's not...
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's a very, very good point.
But so you mentioned how we're a learning company and that we sent out a survey. Can you give us a little more info about the survey?
Yeah, it was interesting. Again, what I love about the Easy community is how engaged everybody is. You sent out that survey, and within a day we had, a day and a half, we had over 7,000 responses, which was amazing, which just, again, points to the kind of engaged nature of our community, which I love. And so, yeah, of those 7,000 responses, there was a hell of a lot that has kind of come back from a feedback point of view. Do you want me to run through some of the bits of feedback now?
Yes, please, because I think also the people want to know the results of the survey, what the community has said.
Cool. So a few things. We've obviously got 10,000 people that have invested through EasyProperties and have actually made physical investments into various properties. We've got tens of thousands of people as well who've registered for EasyProperties but haven't yet made an investment. And I think what the biggest bit of feedback that's come back from those guys who are still engaged and still communicating with us, 65% of all of those people who haven't yet invested kind of talk about cash flow issues and timing issues and things like that. They want to invest, but maybe don't have spare cash at the moment, or our IPOs have been timed maybe in the middle of the month or something like that, and whatever disposable income they might have had at the end of their monthly expenses has been kind of used up already. So that was a really big one. So it's given us good insight into some of the other pain points and friction points that our guys have, timing and a lack of funds at the moment. How we've particularly addressed that now is, and we can talk about that in greater detail, but we particularly address that now by extending the IPO for Greenpark. overwhelming feedback have come back from people saying they really want to invest in Greenpark, but just can't for the moment. And so that basically gave us two options. Dealing with the cash flow issue, which we've done, and maybe you can talk about your Santa's little helper that you're going to send out just now if you want to. But then obviously also the timing. And so we've extended this period to give people an opportunity to have another 2 paydays and potentially, hopefully, a 13th check for a lot of people to be able to invest in Greenpark. So that was one of the biggest ones. A really big feedback came back with regards to webinars. There is still quite a lot of misunderstanding around how EasyProperties works, and that's come through quite clearly. And so that falls on your and my shoulders to put together a whole lot of more series of smaller videos, and largely those are to deal with the kind of financial calculations. So as you know, you're now already deep into discussions around putting together a better and bigger library of, say, video resources that people can kind of tap into. People specifically would like to have webinars around the particular IPOs. So while they're, again, you know, it's the amazing thing about assumption. We assume that because we provide that very lengthy prospectus, which details all sorts of things, and you know, how the offers work, and the arrangements, and the actual properties themselves, and all the financials, and the fact that you know, there are some of the financial calculations provided on the platform as well. Our assumption is that they are being received, that they're easy to find and understandable. And that's obviously come back that some guys are still struggling with that. So we'll attend to that really quickly. One of the other bits of feedback is guys want more choice. I mean, at the moment, we've been kind of loading one of these properties a month. People want to have more choice with regards to having more properties on the platform at one go. So we are busy looking at other property investments now as well. And the biggest one, I think the biggest frustration that has come back quite clearly is the painful experience for people transitioning from their EasyEquities account or the app or the actual desktop platform and getting across to EasyProperties. That's come through in a huge way. And that's obviously has... We've taken that to heart. It's kind of hurt that. I think one of the things that Easy prides itself on is amazing UX, and we've probably got one of the best UX designers
in the country
around.
MTN
Easy in the country.
Award,
I mean, we won that MTN award for this beautiful app that Almira and his team has designed. And I think that feedback around that transition has been really good. We knew it was a bit cumbersome, but we didn't realize how painful it was for people as well. So I think Al has felt like a mortal wound getting that feedback, but we are attending to that in a hurry because that's not ideal. I think those are kind of the main points that have come out of the survey.
And you actually spoke to the slight misunderstanding about what's possible on the platform and not. And I actually just got a question from Fizzy Lemanenza here asking, like, do we consider bigger investments first on EasyProperties before looking at small amounts? And I mean, for us, it's a straightforward answer, but maybe if you can just, like, you know, tell him, because I feel like people don't.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that question was asked, because one of the other key bits of feedback has come with people's dissatisfaction around how that oversubscription works on a property. So let's deal with that at the same time as this question. So the short answer is no. Every offer, whether it comes in first or last, or if it's for R1 or 500,000 Rand, is dealt with the same. You know, you get the same access. Your offer of getting an allocation of shares is treated in exactly the same way. There's no preference in time or with value of an offer. That's the one answer. The the slightly longer answer is, we've been trying to deal with this oversubscription issue. It's quite a complicated thing. Obviously, we put out a prospectus which sets out the terms of the offer, and it tells you how much we need to raise to make this property investment kind of go forward, materialize. It also specifically gives out the dates of the offer, open date and a close date. What I would love to do is to be able to say, listen, we need to raise 1 million rand. We are going to raise 1,100,000 rand, and then the offer closes, because then we know that the offer is secure, everyone's investments are secure, the purchase is secure, and we deal with that oversubscription. Unfortunately, the regulations in the country are such that you can't do it that way. You have to be guided by the close date. So if you change the close date, so again, in this example, we're looking to raise 1 million rand. We hit a target of 1.1 million rand, and we decide, okay, that's it. We're going to close, and everyone's going to get a good proportion of their shares that they've applied for. We've got to then file a supplementary prospectus with the CIPC to close that offer. What then happens is that, because that is considered a material change to the offer and the document that we initially set out, it gives every single person who's invested 20 business days to cancel those offers. And so I think what we've got to do primarily is just to make sure that when our investors have invested and we've hit our target, I think the first responsibility that we have is to make sure that that property transaction is secure. If we then at that stage close the offer and give people 20 business days to cancel their applications, which is required by law, and there is just a flurry of money that goes out of the offer, and we don't miss that offer, then the whole thing falls apart. Okay, so that's the one thing. One of the ways, but okay, so I mean, that's just setting out what the problem is. What we are doing is we're busy working with our smart fintech lawyers. We've got guys upstairs with massive experience. We understand what the feedback is from the customers, and we're really trying to work with all of these parties to work out like a good opportunity, and working that around. The other way of looking at it is, if you let me put it this way, you don't want to disincentivize people to come into the offer late, so i.e. you get up to 80% of the raise that you're looking for, and then there's a disincentive for people to invest into that last 20% because there's a different kind of arrangement. Then the guys think, okay, well, I'm not going to invest there, I'll wait for the next one. And so there's a disincentive to kind of complete that offer. So there's a whole lot of, and the way that we're running these IPOs at the moment is the way IPOs run all around the world. Every IPO around here in South Africa on the stock market or whatever runs this way. And oversubscription is, it's a nice problem to have, but it is quite frustrating for our investors. But we I think what's also amazing about the Easy Group is, just because something has always been done this way, and that's the kind of the current regulations on how it's done, it doesn't mean that it's the only way to do it. And so we're looking for obviously a legal angle, but like fresh ways of looking at it that we can address that pain point.
Hundreds. You actually, so that's hundreds, and that's so true about the group, that we try and always like improve and make it easier for everyone to access assets and investments. But you mentioned the extension of an IPO. In particular, why did we extend the IPO for Greenpark?
Stans, for one main reason, and that is basically the feedback that we got from our community. That I think people understand that Greenpark represents a really great investment. I mean, the figures and everything are on the platform. And I don't have all of them on the top of my head, but if I can set out some of those points, I mean, we've got 25 units there. So it's by far the biggest raise that we've done. by far. So yeah, the other ones were all raised really quickly and oversubscribed quickly, and we're still working out what the ideal size is and the length of time is for the IPO. And so we probably gave too short a period of time for this IPO anyway. But that's not the main reason. The main reason is that is what people asked us for from the community. They want to invest in Greenpark. The timing was poor in terms of when we listed it, so we've learned from that. But they want an opportunity to invest in Greenpark. We want to be able to secure this and raise the required amount to secure this property investment for our community. And short of giving money to people to use, the only other thing we could do is to extend that time. So we've heard what our community said, and so we've extended that period. We've had to go back to Baldwin, because obviously we signed an offer to purchase with them that we would have raised the 70% by X amount of time.
Yeah.
So we've had to go and renegotiate terms. They were obviously completely happy to do it. They're big supporters of what we are doing here. And so they're very happy to amend the terms of the offer and to give us more time to raise the cash. But that's primarily the reason, is because it was a request from our community.
And something you mentioned, and this is one of the biggest appeals in Greenpark, is that it's fully tenanted. Can you explain to us like why investing in a fully tenanted property is like so valuable?
Yeah, well, it's one predominant reason, and that is from the day that the property transfers into your name, you are earning an income on that property. On some of the other units, we've had to, obviously, if guys read our prospectus, they would see that we've mandated various agencies to go and find tenants. And so, yeah, as an example, Black Brick is a good example. That was a off-plan development. We've purchased the units. Obviously, they had to finish the construction. At handover of these units, not all of them were occupied. And so we've got to go out and find tenants. And obviously, if that takes a month to find a tenant, theoretically, that means that we're not getting rental income for that month. And so it's one of the pain points and friction points of having your own individual property investment is if you buy a unit in Rosebank, you save for a long time, you come up with 100,000 Rand or 200,000 Rand and put down a deposit, you get a big bond of whatever, R1 million, is going to cost you 8,000 Rand a month to pay off that bond. You take ownership of your first investment unit, and for 2 months, you can't find a tenant. Well, you've got to now come up with 16,000 Rand for your bond payments. And so, that's why Greenpark is great. We've got 25 units. I mean, I would be having sleepless nights now if we had 25 untenanted units coming onto the market and we had to fill these things. So the fact that they've got tenants in there, they're good leases. They were leases that were actually done by the Baldwin Group. So that's the one point. The second point is obviously, again, it's around what we've tried to do with EasyProperties is because we've got multi-unit strategies. Is someone whispering in your ear there?
No, not really. It's just a slight distraction. Yeah.
Because we've got like multi-units, it obviously spreads the risk, you know. So if someone's put 1,000 Rand in total across our whole platform, all the properties that we've currently invested, they've got a share across 30 residential units. And when Greenpark gets away, they're going to have 1,000 Rand or 1,500 Rand share across 55 units. So that means if 2 units are vacant, it's not great, but at least you've got 53 units paying and covering all the expenses and earning income and stuff. So anyway, it's another long story, but that's particularly why with these 25 units in Greenpark, the fact that they are all tenanted, we know what rental we're getting. That's all signed and sealed, and all of that stuff means that we can be pretty sure that of what kind of returns we're going to get for now. Obviously, things change, people leave and all of that, but it de-risks the investment in a big way.
See, I love the way you put it. It de-risks the investment. I love that summary of it. And so then you mentioned that rental income starts to pour in almost more faster than if, there were untenanted units. And now someone is asking, does fractional shareholdings in EasyProperties use the same methodology when it comes to dividend payouts like shares on EasyEquities? And so I just kind of want to say to Ayanda, who asked this question, so I guess dividends are the rent income that comes in, am I right, Rupert? That's pretty much where the dividend policy comes from, rental income.
Yeah.
Would you be able to speak more to that, and especially in the case of like Greenpark, since it is fully tenanted?
Okay, so our dividends are paid out to our investors from the rent that's collected, net of obviously the expenses. And so some of the expenses will include levies, any rates, perhaps some insurance, the fees that we're busy paying to the agencies who are managing these units on our behalf, that kind of stuff, any particular maintenance issues that might come up. Obviously, we make a provision for that by just keeping a small pool of cash, at 15% of the rental collected. We keep in a little pool for rainy days. That still accrues to the investors and will still get paid out to the investors when it's not used. But the actual dividend policy is twofold. One, we will be looking to pay out these dividends every quarter. Okay, that's the one thing. The one thing that we haven't yet, obviously on EasyEquities, you get the option to reinvest your dividends. If you get a dividend payout on a Satrix investment or whatever it might be, you have the option of choosing to reinvest that dividend back into where you earned the dividend from, that share you earned the dividend from.
Yeah.
We don't have that capability as yet. We're busy building that capability. Obviously, the difficulty in some of them, once the IPO is closed, then the shares have been allocated. And so if you want to reinvest your dividends, you've got to wait until someone wants to sell one of their shares. And so I would say that's quite a major departure from how EasyEquities does it and how EasyProperties will do it. Because we can only reinvest if you earn whatever, 100 Rand dividend out of BlackBrick, and you want to reinvest that 100 Rand in BlackBrick, well, you can't, because there's a finite amount of shares. If someone's selling, then obviously you can reinvest it. So we will pay those dividends into your EasyProperties wallet, and you can decide to reinvest that into kind of future IPOs or whatever you want to do with it.
Nice. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Ayanda. And I actually had a question which is similar to Fiso's, and the question is, what is the difference with Greenpark? Like, what makes it easier to rent out? So he's pretty much asking, why is it so appealing, and what is the profile of the tenant there? So like, why is it so appealing to people to like be renting? And if possible, can EasyProperties people rent out any units that may become available?
I can't wait until the EasyProperties community start renting out the units that we've all invested in. Right. What a pleasure, man. It's so cool. It has to be. Obviously, we've now got that little section at the top of our platform that says rent a unit, and you can click on that and it will show you like a little form to fill out, and you can fill out your name and surname and what kind of which property you're potentially interested in renting. I can't wait. I mean, for fear of repeating myself, we've got such a huge community here in EasyProperties and in EasyEquities. We as a community, I mean, a good example is the Blyde. We as a community own 10 units there. There's 6,500 of us who own those 10 units. Yeah. I mean, that's radical. That's so cool. I mean, that speaks to democratizing investment opportunities like nothing else. But why not rent out the unit that you own a share in? If you're looking for a place to rent, and it's in your price range. Go and rent out one of our units at the Blythe, man. You own a share in it. What a pleasure. We, as the rest of the community, want our community to rent out our units. It's wonderful. Anyway, so I mean, that's the second part of the question. The first part around Greenpark, I mean, Boksburg is a really good area. It's shown good growth over the last while. It's got good demand. It's in that kind of largely in that price segment that's kind of showing good growth in the general property market. You know, versus like the real top end stuff that sometimes is not growing as much in this current environment. So it's got good rental demand as well. And I think that was more specifically the question. Boksburg is ideally situated where this development is, Greenpark. If I think about it, it's really close to Gautrain, it's close to the airport, it's really close to the East Rand Mall, lots of schools, a lot of amenities around there, which is great. But the development itself, I mean, you were the goalkeeper that saved the day when EasyProperties absolutely hammered Easy Equities at our six-a-side soccer.
What did we expect? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. The wall, Standwa the wall. But I mean, you've seen those amenities there yourself. I mean, it's got, I think there are 1,200 units in the development. So it's a really, really big development. So it's got a wonderful kind of sense of community there. It's got swimming pools, it's got clubhouses, it's got restaurants. It's obviously got the six-a-side soccer, which we really need to talk about more. It's close to a golf course for people into golf. It's got outdoor gyms, all of that kind of stuff. You know, these rentals start off at 6,500 Rand for a 2-bed unit.
Wow. Okay.
So if you are looking to, I mean, I think of, you know, I'm sitting here in Auckland Park looking over the parks. To rent out a tiny little studio garden cottage in the parks is going to cost you 10,000 Rand a month. And you're going to be in like a little small place or whatever. You know, here you're paying 6,500 Rand for a 2-bedroom unit in a beautifully new build. It's got really superior finishes. I mean, that we know, especially compared to what else is around there. And you've got access to this amazing lifestyle estate, which has traditionally been the enjoyment of people who are living in really upmarket estates. You know, if I think of Danefern or Four Ways Gardens, all that kind of stuff, they've got all of these amenities. But here, Baldwin have created this amazing product that is giving access to this lifestyle and all these amenities to somebody for 6,500 Rand a month. Yeah, I mean, for all of those reasons, you know, I think the rentability of Greenpark is extremely high for all of those reasons, notwithstanding the fact, well, including the fact that the build quality that Baldwin does is really fantastic, and the finishes are fantastic, and it's a brand new build.
And then I want to ask like one more question before then we wrap up. Someone asked, will one of the fully tenanted, will one of the units available at Greenpark be available on Airbnb like we have on the Blythe? So if, for instance, you want to go to the Blythe, you can go on Airbnb and you can actually rent from our profile on EasyProperties. But what about Greenpark?
Yeah, I think we will do that. You know, again, this was an idea that came out of our property partners from Narrative, Andrew and his team. They listed our Blythe properties on Airbnb, and it's been extremely popular. It's fantastic. We've got bookings till past New Year's Eve into 2021. It's really cool. So yeah, so the short answer is on Greenpark. Not now, because obviously all the units are tenanted. When these leases start coming up for renewal, we will definitely look at that as an option, because it's working really well on the Blythe at the moment.
For sure. And I actually just want to ask our host and scene and code, can we just run over 5 more minutes, because I'm getting like nice traction on this and questions. Rupert, are you comfortable with going on?
Yeah, totally. Minutes? Yeah, totally.
So we had a question. I have another question about the IPO and the extension and the whole subscription. So Jenny is asking, since the extension of the IPO, does it mean that if she cancels her subscription, she will not be allowed to resubscribe again?
No. You have the option of canceling your subscription if you subscribed in the first period. Okay, so so the original period, if you subscribe for shares in that period, then by law you are given 20 business days to cancel that subscription. You can resubscribe for shares again, but anyone who subscribes for shares during this period is obviously bound by the same terms and conditions of those offers, i.e., you've got a period to cancel and you can't cancel after a certain period and all of that, those kind of traditional T's and C's. Maybe that's a bit of a convoluted answer, but yes, you can cancel, and yes, you can reinvest.
But I mean, why would you want to end up doing that anyway? I understand. I think maybe it's a liquidity thing, but
could be.
I would rather like just keep it there for the time, and instead of having to remember and go back, and next thing you know, it's bank fees for transferring. So it wouldn't be worthwhile, I would say, to cancel and then resubscribe. And then I have one thing I want to ask you, Rupert. Do you have insights for us on the property market, or any closing kind of sentiments you have about the property market as well as Greenpark as well?
The first thing I want to say, so yes, I do, Stans. The first thing I want to say is we need to get more women investing into EasyProperties. Part of the demographics, which I find like really interesting, 70% of all the people who've invested in EasyProperties are young men. The kind of average ages range between 26 and 33, somewhere around there, which is fantastic. I wish I'd started my investment journey at those ages. But just parking that aside, so 30% are women. If I look at the traditional residential property market, the biggest single group of first-time buyers are single Black women, which is wonderful. It's actually something to really, really celebrate. I think it points to all sorts of economic empowerment. It points to getting rid of the traditional male hierarchy, all of that jazz. It's really something, I think, to celebrate. But I don't know why it's not translating into EasyProperties in investment. Maybe it's because all of those ladies are buying their own houses. I'm not sure. It's just been a really interesting insight. And so you ask about the market. That's a really interesting stat for me, that for 3 years in a row, the biggest the group of first-time buyers is single Black women. And that's something to celebrate, which is like
shout out to that. Yeah, I love it.
So obviously, in this market, there's some challenges around rentals. We know that people have been furloughed and lost their jobs and things like that, which is a tragedy. But it obviously affects the rental market. So people are struggling to pay rent. So there's some pressure on the rental market. What's interesting, I read recently that one of the banks or the mortgage originators had reported that their year on year, the amount of applications for bonds has increased by over 50%, which is amazing. So that points to, there's stuff happening in the property market. And again, like everything, there are bans. And so there are bands in the property market that are doing particularly well. There are bands and areas, price bands and specific geographic areas that are obviously not doing as well as others. But I think the prognosis for the property market is, property is always being seen as a safe haven. You just got to do your research, And again, EasyProperties is a wonderful way to mitigate that risk. Spread your risk across 55 individual units. And if you've got 2 guys who can't pay rent, you're collecting rent from 53. If you've got one of your own residential units and the tenant that's in there falls on hard times, you are exposed 100%. And so, like all investing, diversification is key.
Yes.
Yeah, so I suppose that's a little bit of commentary on the market that I kind of hear from, you know, my reading and connections in the industry. Yeah, Greenpark. I think in closing, Greenpark, it offers a net yield of 9%, which is really good. It offers an IRR of 10.8%, which is obviously a combination of capital growth and net yield. You know, and there are little tool tips on our platform that help describe these things. It's a good investment. We obviously, because we bought 25 units, we got a good discount. You know, I think the discount to the independent valuations was 4.25%. And so those independent valuations, and that's not against the asking price, the discount against the asking price was larger than that. We obviously get independent valuators to go out and value each individual unit. They come back and say that the value was 19,150,000 or something. It's all on the platform. Yeah. We bought those for 18,336,000. So theoretically, that points to the kind of potential capital growth that we can enjoy straight away, you know, buying at a discount. Yeah. And then obviously we've made assumptions on capital growth over the period. Greenpark is a really, really good investment. As a community, we have to get this over the line.
I 110% agree with that. It's just one of those.
I think Stans, I mean, we at about 40% now. So I mean, we've raised over 5 million rand into Greenpark, which is amazing. If you think about Green Reef Village, which was our first one, which was what, 2.6, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that sold out in half a day, but it was a small raise.
It was a small raise.
Yeah, and I know, because again, it's come through from some of our feedback with our community, that people have seen guys investing in Greenpark and think, geez, I need to be there as well. And so they kind of slipstream in investments, and everyone kind of climbed into that one, which was good because it's a good product. People mustn't think because they see Greenpark raise relatively slowly, and I say relatively because you've already raised over 5 million rand there, that it's not a good investment. They must bear that in mind versus the big raise that we're doing. So it might seem like it's going up by 1 or 2% a day, but 1 or 2% represents anything from 150,000 to 300,000 rand a day that is going into the Greenpark IPO. So the percentages can sometimes be a little bit misleading. Yeah. So people shouldn't get kind of cold feet because they think it's slow and therefore there's like an issue with it. It's actually the opposite. It's a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, I think for me the opportunity in the fully tenanted units, for me that's my favorite selling point in it, and I would love to see more people climbing into this investment. But it's still a lot, quite a bit. Yeah. So I'm happy with the numbers and how the community is doing.
Yeah, and maybe some of our guys who have registered for EP and haven't had opportunities to invest should have a look out in the inboxes from a little email from you.
That is true. So it's coming out in the next few minutes. It's been scheduled for about the next 25 minutes.
Oh, so I can't wait.
If you've registered and haven't made an investment yet, check your inboxes in the next few minutes. But other than that, I think we're done for today. Yeah, Roop?
Lekker, Stan. It's lovely to chat to you, man.
Thanks for coming through, man. And,
and thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Lovely. All right, and that's us signing out, guys. Cheers and have a great day going forward. Have a lovely week.
Cheers.